Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to a very special episode. And before I go into those details, firstly, Mr. West, I would
Yes.
like to thank you for us revisiting this just over 2 years later, because one of my first life hacks with Mac was with Francis West. And ironically, I've decided, and the lighting is giving me a bit of strain and blindness here because I've got a very dark room because of the heat. But I'm sitting in the same spot where I did my first interview with you on Life Hacks with Mac. And about the 266% increase in hacking and cybersecurity from many years ago. So I know that we are going to have a very interesting discussion today, Francis, and especially over the last year, I think it's really important that people listen out and really take note on some of the things we're going to discuss today. So without further ado, Francis West, how are you today?
Absolutely outstanding. Thank you for asking, Mac, and thanks for having me back. I can't believe it's been 2 years ago, but a lot has happened since then. Luckily, I'm standing at the moment in a air conditioning office. So, and I just looked at my watch; it's saying 38 degrees.
Yeah.
And I walked outside just to feel the heat, and I tell you, it's like coming off the plane in Turkey, in mid summer. It's hot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's proper scorcher out there. I was actually relocated my laptop about 10 minutes ago because I thought, you know what, let's do something different. I'm going to sit outside under the parasol, nice in the shade. I was out there for about 2 minutes and I went, nope, not happening today.
Yeah, not a good idea.
No, absolutely not. So anyway, without further ado, there's so much that people don't know about what you've been involved in over the last few years. And for those of you, if you've gone onto the description of the event, you would have seen that Francis is on a mission to inform and advise 1 million business owners on how to stay cyber safe so that they can maximize the advantage of the technology whilst minimizing the risk. Now, that sounds from my experience over the last couple of years and seeing how things have exploded in the cyber world, and with regards to cyber hacking and all the threats that are out there, it's a continuous game. It's not even you update yourself every year. It's like update yourself minute by minute at the moment. So how do you stay current with all these things, Francis? Because it's just insane.
It's a very good question. I post on LinkedIn every day, but I get so much content, and we're dealing with so many cases on a daily basis that I could probably post 5 or 6 times every day. And then, of course, I sit on now 7. I haven't told you the latest yet. I'm sitting on 7 security panels where we discuss all the latest threats, on a weekly basis. And it's going one way, and that's north. And then this morning, I was already sitting on 2 security panel meetings, just discussing the latest threats and what's going on there, especially with Russia and Ukraine. It's just gone to another level.
And that means that everybody is, no matter what size business you're in, is at risk. And we're seeing so much more on social media, especially I've noticed on LinkedIn as an example. So many fake accounts, people that are, what do you call it? Not Bitcoin, but in the cryptocurrency space, and you're not quite sure, because we can't ignore the fact that crypto is real and it's growing and it is a big industry, but at the same time, it's like, you don't want to touch it with a barge pole in case it's a fake account. So, it's interesting because I spoke to a lot of cryptocurrency company owners recently. And that's one of the biggest struggles they're facing at the moment is people taking them seriously because of the number of fake accounts that are out there. And then, whether it be a blockchain or anything related to Ukraine or and there's just endless numbers of these things.
Yeah.
So
you were talking about LinkedIn there for a second.
Yes.
Again, you've seen so many posts actually, people saying, "Oh, we're doing this for charity," for Ukraine, and so many of them are false, and people are paying good money straight into the hackers and scammers' bank accounts, and they're very grateful, of course.
Absolutely. And it's I've had tons of these where people have messaged me, and one of the things that I've noticed is because LinkedIn are clamping down on this, because they now can get you to verify your email address on a company page. But so many people are latching on to other people's company pages without the owners of those company pages even knowing that they've got these employees that are apparently working for them. But and it says on LinkedIn they've had X number of years of experience. What are your thoughts on that? What have you seen happening?
Well, it's interesting because one of our biggest sectors is the recruitment sector, and what they're doing now is, when somebody employs a new person, especially the young people, they update their LinkedIn profile to say, I've got this brand new job and I'm working for XYZ, and normally within days or weeks, that person, let's say it's called Mary, she's 23 years old, just finished her degree, she's now working for this company XYZ, and she gets an email or direct message from her boss saying, "Listen, we've got a new client, can you please go and buy these Amazon vouchers?" And case after case where the girl or the boy was too scared to challenge her new boss and use their own credit card to go and buy these vouchers. And the point here is, of course, they picked up all this information by seeing new profiles being created for people working at new positions. So it's a really tricky one. And again, that comes back down to lack of education within that business. Simple as that. And also culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to the education side of things, I think we've gone through a stage where there was a lot of education on one stage, then there was a lot of noise, and then there was a lot of politics and the pandemic and all these crazy things happening, that the education almost got lost in the noise, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of organizations tick a box when it comes to they need to have XYZ in place. But when it comes to cybercrime and protecting individuals, even as far as going and talking about things like your LinkedIn account and what you do, now we don't want people to stop posting, as an example, and people to kind of become too afraid of being online, but we also want to make sure that they are safe in the process of doing so.
Yeah.
So you've just brought out a perfect example where, and I've actually unfortunately seen so many of these situations where new employees have gone to new companies and other people have picked that up, and they've been sent links because they go onto LinkedIn, as an example, they update their details, and all of a sudden their email address is now public and available. Tell us about the dangers of that, because I guess what I want to get to right in the beginning, before we start exploring a bit further, is a lot of people say to me, "Well, what's really the danger? I mean, surely LinkedIn are protecting us," or they say, "Well, what's the danger in connecting with a fake account?" So they've got a fake account. So what? So they don't have posts. The
thing is about any social media, we don't even have to just talk about LinkedIn here, Mac. The more information you put onto the public domain called the internet, the more you are helping a scammer or hacker to build a profile of you, knowing what you like, where you like it, where you're posting stuff from, which means they just use that to socially engineer you one way or another, whether they do it through WhatsApp. I mean, we can go into this in great depth, but the thing is just what people put on their social media accounts, and if we stick to LinkedIn, is a complete open book to how I would use that information to approach them, to say, really enjoy that post or really like what you did there, and just start communicating with them at the right time. I'll get the information from them that I want, that I'll use to get into their business, especially if their business is, financial or medical, there's so many ways to then use that because I'm a friend on LinkedIn.
So, what would you say that are the kind of top things, when somebody gets a connection request or they just see a profile that looks, interesting? Like, what are the top things that kind of scream out, take a step back, check this out before you go too far?
Yeah, it's an interesting question though, because I think we are so social media driven that everybody likes and they like to be connected to, and the more the better. I've got 1,000 followers, you've got 5,000, I've got 10,000. So people are first looking at the pleasure instead of the pain element. But coming back to your question, so profile or the link comes in, I always reply and say, well, why do you want to connect? Give me a reason why you want to connect. I'll gladly help you, but tell me why. And 99% of the time, people never respond to that request because it's just like a fire and forget thing. They use some automation tool. And then in the cases where I do connect, I would go and check them out first. So I would look at their About Us page. I'd look at their reviews or any of their endorsements. I would even, have a look at their photo. We spoke earlier, you and I, about the Google search function now, where we can go and search for people and see if they've actually using a fake photo. So there are many quick ways of doing it, but the big thing is ask yourself, why do you want to connect to this person? How are they going to add value? Unless they've got a massive profile that's like, 3 miles deep, and you met them at a networking event, don't connect to them.
So that's an interesting one, because that contradicts, because there's so many different schools of thought when it comes to, should I accept or should I reject? Should I just connect with everybody? And here's the I guess the part that makes everybody kind of wonder about this, because LinkedIn itself is kind of conflicting, and I'll explain why. So, if you reach out to somebody who you are not connected to, on occasion, LinkedIn will say, hey, do you know this person? And if you don't, it will ask you for their email address so that you can really connect. And it's like, oh, okay. And then you go onto your network page, as an example, where you're just looking at your network, and all of a sudden LinkedIn are recommending, people similar to, people like this person, people in similar businesses. And I'm like, so hold on, I don't know any of those people, but you are recommending all these people for me to connect to, but you just asked me why I'm connecting with that one individual that I do want to connect with, and what's their email address. The rest of them you don't worry about. And I'm like, conflict. But at the same time, a lot of people do this, and I know a lot of networks and a lot of LinkedIn trainers or coaches will talk about, grow your network, because the number is really important. And then, people like myself, which is, sanity over vanity, because of the fact that I come from the security background, and I tend to have this more conscious idea of the fact that it's so easy for people to be hacked, and unfortunately having had that in my history. So when what are the kind of things that people don't realize can happen once you connect to a stranger?
Yeah, I mean, a perfect example is that, once you are connected to somebody, they can send you a private message. Now, what they normally do is, in that private message, they'll make it very well crafted, and they'll put a link on this. I just want to share this with you. I've really like your profile. I love what your company's doing, and I've got a link here that you can actually read a lot more of, this and that. And the moment you click on that link, you're done. Because that link, and not just from an attack perspective, sometimes what they do is they even include a Word document or a PDF document, a PowerPoint document or Excel. And the only way you can access that is by putting in your Office 365 username and password. And the moment you do that, you've just given them your full access to your email account,
which means all your confirmations from every account you've ever set up.
Precisely. And then the next thing they do, once they're in your email account, they would set up a rule to automatically delete any password reset notification emails that come in. So they'll then go through your Twitter, your LinkedIn, your bank, your this, your that, your Amazon account, and start doing password resets, because most people get an email when they do a password reset. So they'll create a rule to delete all those, and now they've got full access, and you will never know until you know, which is too late. That's the one side. The other side, of course, is once they've then done a reset and they get into your LinkedIn account and you connect to, say, 30,000 people, happy days, because now they'll send a private message to every single one of your connections. And I see this almost on a daily basis now. It's Johnny here, just need some help with this, or I'm supporting this charity. I just thought you might want to look at it. And now you've just spread that infection to every single one of your connections. And the big fallout of this is the reputational damage, and this stuff can be avoided.
So, one of the reasons I'm so hell-bent on making sure that people just pay a little bit of attention here, because most people always, that saying of, well, it won't happen to me, and that happens. We hear that far too often. And you and I both know a mutual contact that I referred to you recently, and he had that attack on his LinkedIn. Then he had an attack on his email, which is exactly what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
And then the hackers had reset his passwords and his email address and the phone number before he could go in and contact LinkedIn.
Precisely.
And so by the time he was trying to recover his account, all the recovery messages were going elsewhere, so he couldn't get access to that. And then all of his contacts, as you were saying, were starting to get all these messages, both on email as well as on LinkedIn, saying, he's having a few issues with his account, blah, blah, blah. And all these links were going out to all of them, but it came back to the fact that there was already something that wasn't even on LinkedIn necessarily, but that had infected the laptop, and then literally, like a human virus, gone onto every single other platform.
Yeah.
Now, within, I think it was 2 or 3 days, he was locked out of everything. And till today, it's been 3 months, we're still fighting with LinkedIn to help him get his account back, because of the fact that they went to so much trouble to reverse and social engineer this process. So, the impact, and this is what I want people to really listen to, is that, don't wait until it happens to you. Is you have an opportunity now to do something about it. Unfortunately, Francis, with your years of experience in cybersecurity, when people have heard that there is a problem, how many people take action? What percentage?
I think I would say maybe. Well, I would say it's a low percentage that takes all the advice, which is fair enough. I would say it's a larger percentage that actually just do something. But the problem is, it's a grudge thing that people they always say, well, it should be LinkedIn, it should be Facebook, it should be Amazon, it should be Office 365, Microsoft. They should sort the security out, and they should do, but they don't, because they don't want 1 million or 1 trillion support calls once they turn on subject which we haven't spoken about, multi-factor authentication, because they can fix this problem very, very quickly, but they just don't, because they don't want the pain. They'd rather let the user have the pain every single time. So, something else I just was going to mention before I forget. I'm the national lead for cybersecurity for the Federation of Small Businesses, and they just released a new research showing that LinkedIn is now the most frequently impersonated brand used for phishing attacks, with more than 52% of incidents worldwide using LinkedIn likeness. I mean, that's mental, and that's why. How many users on LinkedIn are there now?
They've crossed 830 million users now.
So from a hacker or scammer's perspective, this is big business. So whether you're a single person, remember, again, I always say to people, hackers and scammers go after the size of vulnerability, not the size of people or size of the company. They go the size of vulnerability. And the problem that we see time and time again of the smaller one-man band, 5-man, 10-man, 50, even 100 or 200-man band, just do not get the right advice and do not take action to fix this problem. Because believe me, we believe very strongly that you can fix this problem if you do it properly.
So let's talk about, maybe 3 or 4 little things that people can go and do literally while they're watching this right now, that they can go and do, and then they can comment in the comments that they have taken action. So as an example, what would be the top 3 things that you would recommend people go and do?
So the first thing, without a shadow of a doubt, is I always say to people, make a list. Make a list of every single application, social media, ring.com, Amazon, Netflix, whatever account that you're using, especially ones where you're either communicating with other people or ones where there's a payment method inside, including Apple TV, for instance. Set up multi-factor or 2-factor authentication. And YouTube is your friend. If you want to email me, I'll send you instructions. But if you go onto YouTube and you simply type, how do I set up multi-factor authentication for my LinkedIn account? You will get probably 50 videos with a step-by-step guide. So, and I'll give you the brief overview. So what you do is, first of all, on your phone, doesn't matter if it's Android or Apple, go and download an app called Microsoft Authenticator. It's a free app that will generate these 2 or multi-factor authentication codes for you. And these codes only last for 30 seconds. Then go into LinkedIn, go and click on your name, go to settings, go to 2-factor authentication, click on the button to enable it. You then go back to your phone, you click on the little plus sign at the top right. It'll ask you to scan a new QR code, which is now, the QR code is now presented on your PC or Mac. Yeah. The moment you scan that code, instantly it generates a code that you read, of course, from your phone. You submit it on the screen, done. From that moment forward, nobody will be able to easily get into your LinkedIn account unless they're sitting next to you, you holding your phone and then putting a gun against your head. That's the only way they're going to get that code. And they've also got 30 seconds to do it. But, if everybody could just do that one thing.
I mean, that would cut out what?
Just
98% of the big problems.
So that's number 1. You asked for 3 things, right? Number 2, I always say to people, how do you know when your LinkedIn password has been compromised? And they go, what do you mean? I said, well, if you look on the dark web, you'll find that LinkedIn has been compromised multiple times over the last 10 years. So when last did you change your password? Not that I recommend changing passwords. That's another subject altogether. What I do recommend highly is to start implementing what I call an enterprise password manager. And by that, I mean one that does what we call breach wash, which means it'll alert you the moment your LinkedIn password has been compromised. Because then you can take action. And also the other good thing about a good password manager like that, you can also use it to store your multi-factor or your 2-factor authentication codes. So if you do those 2 things, you are alerted, you've protected it. And then, of course, my next bit of advice, please share this information with your team at the office, with your uncle, your aunt, whoever else is using LinkedIn, because they don't know this stuff. And remember, again, we said earlier about the number of attacks happen to people that do not have this in place. So the moment you implement this, they'll simply go to the next person that doesn't have this in place, because there's millions of those. So make yourself as unattractive as possible. It is that simple.
So, a couple of years ago, you told me about a website which scared the hell out of me when I went to go and have a look at, and I just put my email address in. And all of a sudden I realized that not only had my email address been compromised, but it had been sold on, and then it showed every major organization where I used that email address as a username or login, and where that information had been compromised. And I was shocked to see some of the really big names, including Google, on that list. So
and Canva, how many people use Canva?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the problem that we have there again, Mac, and it's not an issue if your password gets compromised. Well, it is, but you see, that's not the real issue. The real issue is that you use the same password or even a variation of the same password on your 365 account, your G Suite account, your Baby Alarm, your Ring.com, and all your other accounts. And that's why you're making it so easy for hackers and scammers to get into you.
Yeah.
You know, did you know that an 8-digit password can now be cracked in under an hour?
Wow.
Under an hour. So in other words, and that's just using normal computing power, not even something fancy. So, you know, our recommendation today is 20 random characters.
Sure. That's a huge
and
number.
That's why, and here's the thing about passwords, that the moment you can remember a password, it's not good enough. Apart from, if you're using a password manager, your first line of defense is when you log into your password manager, that should be a sentence. So a sentence you should be able to remember. And after that, you don't have to remember anything else.
I remember you taking me through that exercise of looking at 5 random things in the room and making a sentence of that. Is that something that you would still recommend?
Absolutely. You know, and I've just put it in the chat there for you. We can say now who it is. So there's a brilliant website, security.org/how-secure-is-my-password. And in there you can type in, it uses an algorithm, so it doesn't store past anything, but it'll tell you how long it takes to crack a password. So if you're not willing to invest, say, £6 a month in an enterprise password manager, the next best thing you can do is to look around you. So let's say you're doing your LinkedIn password. Look around your table where you're sitting this very second and find 4 things that you'll remember. And if you put those 4 things in as a password for LinkedIn, you will be, you know, your chance of getting hacked is it'll take about 3 sextillion years. So by the time everybody's listened to this 10,000 times, they'll all be dead by then.
So that it's slightly secure. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's just a little bit better than normal. Yeah. You know, definitely. But my point is that, again, this is why I'm laboring the point. It's good practice to make this password, but use a password manager, because then you don't have to remember the stuff ever.
And Francis, if you don't mind, send us that link for the password manager, and I'll actually share it to all our viewers as well.
Yeah, I'll do that now.
But I'm playing around with some features at the bottom over here, and I know Joel, who's doing some tech support for me, may wonder where I've done this, but I've now added the ticking URL at the bottom of the screen as well for the ones that you've shared already.
Yeah, I quite like that. It's a really nice feature.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So we do. I've just put the link there for you. So not only can we provide you with enterprise password management, we actually do the implementation for people as well, because we find that if we don't help them with the initial setup, then they just don't get going. And if they don't get going, it's sad, because this stuff is fixable.
So it's interesting that you say that, because I know you and I had a discussion about this earlier about, you know, the struggle of people being able to take that action. So now you have the right information, you know how to protect yourself, but doing something, taking action. Now, unfortunately, most people will watch this and probably put it on the back burner, won't even make a note.
Yeah.
They'll think about it, but then life will happen. So action won't be taken. So, you know, firstly, Francis has just shared that link. I'm going to actually just put it in and share it to everybody. There it goes, where you can have somebody do it for you if you don't want to go and do it all yourself. And Francis will be able to help you with that. Now, I know there are a few people that have mentioned a few things in the comments, and I'd like to share those when it comes to identifying fake accounts, as an example.
Okay.
And Jonathan put earlier, I shared it briefly on the screen, but he's put there, I tend to look at their posts and activity on the platform.
Agreed.
Now, what kind of things would you recommend when looking to identify a fake account?
Well, again, we spoke about earlier. So if you look at a fake account, I mean, it depends how much effort they put in, and it's all down to how much time you're also willing to invest in spotting a fake account. But one thing that we picked up the other day is where people have a lot of reviews on their fake account, and as soon as you clicked on the face to actually go through to the person that posted a review, there was just nothing there. So obviously these were created either by a bot or something, but it was just nothing. So I again, even if you can see somebody's connected to, I don't know, let's pick a number, 1,000 people, right, or follow. Just go randomly, click on them and randomly check these people, because very quickly you'll find a pattern. You'll find a pattern that either these people don't exist or their profiles are really empty. And it should just ring massive doorbells. And if you find this, please report the profile, because this is a team effort for me. The more we can do this together, the more people will be helped.
Now, it's interesting that you say report. So what I find is on LinkedIn, the report function is very heavily misunderstood. Because report gets used for anything from I don't like this content because it's boring to this is potentially harmful content that people shouldn't see. But it's all under the same button. So as an example, if you click the 3 little dots on the top of a post, you get an option to report. Or if you go onto somebody's profile, you get the options to report. But you get the options from reporting whether you like to see the content or not, right through to being able to report whether it's potentially a fake account, or whether it's something that's harmful or misleading, as an example. So it's something that people need to go play around with. And at what stage do you think somebody should take the action of reporting a profile or a post? Or
either if let's say, for argument's sake, they did connect and they decided to connect, and then all of a sudden they're starting to get a lot of messages through, or a lot of information, or I think also some people just trying to sell to you, but that's another conversation. But as soon as there's all of a sudden, because you can see people looking at your profile, you can see what activity they're doing. So if you see all of a sudden that there's a lot of activity from a person, you really have to question it and then go and check them out. The problem that we have now, Matt, is that everybody is so busy and they just don't have the time to even do this stuff. So my point is then prevention is the only cure. If you put good systems or layers around you, even if you have an infected account or profile, at least your machine or your Mac won't get done. For me, that's a much more sure way of solving this problem.
I just wish there was, and maybe there is, and I've never heard of it, but a piece of software that effectively accompanies and piggybacks you on every social media platform that you go on. And when somebody sends a connection request, you can hit the little scan button and go approve or deny. Because social media has never got to a stage of, LinkedIn now does this. If you lock yourself out in order to get your account back open again, or if you say that your account's been hacked, you need to provide a proof of identification. But other than that, most social networks don't require anything from an identification process. So it's very hard for people to be able to police that.
Well, we had a case like this only a couple of months ago. This very famous chef, I won't mention her name, but her Instagram account was done. And as far as I know, I mean, she had, I don't know how many 100,000 followers or millions of followers. We just couldn't get her account back. And we tried everything. We even tried to speak to some influencers to try, and why was she done? Because she didn't have multi-factor authentication set up, number one. Number two, she was using an old email system, which they got into, instead of G Suite Office 365, because the old email systems do not allow you to set up multi-factor authentication. And she was done. Now she's a client of ours, but it was just, the poor woman went through so much pain and angst because she nearly lost a very big football club as a client because of this.
And it's
so
incredible.
This stuff is serious, very serious.
I mean, this is the part that I think people should really emphasize and listen to, is the fact that yes, it's a social media account. Yes, you can reopen the account, but the reputational damage that can be done by connecting with the wrong person, by not having basic security, it can literally destroy your business. And I've seen that happen. And Francis, unfortunately, you get to manage and deal with people that are in the midst of chaos when they, because most people leave it until that it's too late to reach out and contact you. If there's anything else that you can think of that would be something that people really need to check out for, is there anything else that you can think of that we haven't covered that people really need to keep in mind?
Well, I think we talked, well, we haven't today, but again, how many people access their social media accounts, LinkedIn, excuse me, from their phones? How many people are using WhatsApp?
Well,
everybody.
Yeah.
So I think two things. Number one, I'm going to recommend that everybody who's listening to this call should download and install Sophos Intercept X. It's a free app made by Sophos, which is world-renowned security company that will protect your local device. And I dealt with the case only yesterday. The poor guy is a friend of mine's son. He's been working at Pizza Hut for I don't know how many years. He's 19 years old, and he got a text message through on his Android phone to say that there's a parcel delivery. He clicked on it. He went to the bank. He put his bank details in, and then within minutes they stole £1,000 out of his account. And he's still fighting with Lloyd's, which I think Lloyd's should be ashamed of themselves, to try and get his money back. Yes, I think it was it. But here's my problem. If that was an Apple phone, the chances probably 99% that would have been blocked if you click on a dodgy link. With the Android, brilliant phones, but they just allow everything to go through on average. So that's why I'm saying, please install Sophos Intercept X to protect it, number one. Number two, the other thing which I always show people, so many people, I did a talk the other day, I don't know if I told you, Mac, in front of 300 people, right, in London, about cybersecurity. And I asked everybody to do the following. I said, who's using WhatsApp? Everybody puts their hands up. I said, who secured your WhatsApp account? Everybody looks at me blank. I said, get your phones out. So I've got 300 people getting their phones out, right? I said, go into settings, go into account, go to two-step verification. How many people, I said, put your hands up, please. How many of you have had this enabled? How many people out of 300 put their hands up, Mac?
Probably only about 10, 15%.
13 out of 300.
Ouch.
So the reason why I'm sharing this, because I think it's so important to turn on, because we're seeing so many attacks coming through on WhatsApp. Because then once they're on your phone and you've compromised your phone, then next time you get onto your LinkedIn, now they're in your LinkedIn and your email and your this and your that. So that's why, again, it's about layers. If we can put these layers around people, then, I hope they take this message today. It's layers. Just do it properly, do it once, and then enjoy your life.
Well, at the end of the day, Francis, as you say, it's there's only so much you can do, but at the end of the day, most people don't take those steps to get the basics done. So if we can get these basics done, with a two-factor authentication, with putting, Sophos Intercept, because over 67% of people use their mobile devices to go on social media.
Yeah.
So even more reason why we need to take these little steps. And thank you for sharing some free stuff, because most people tend to come on and they just want to sell, buy my product stuff. And I've been really impressed over the last few years how you've gone out of your way to speak to so many organizations and give them this what can solve 98% of the problems you give away for free.
Yeah.
But and then you have some great software that I personally use to protect me as well on my desktop, as an example. But it's it's not as exhausting and frightening as people think to get all these steps in place. Although cybersecurity does seem like something that's majorly daunting that the big banks and all those organizations deal with.
Do you know what with Graham and I, my business partner, we were talking about this yesterday, and we're thinking about changing the words. Instead of calling it cybersecurity, we're going to start calling it information security. Because I think when people realize that their information is data is the new gold. So if you protect your data, you're protecting your money. It is as simple as that. Now, also one last thing, Mac, I don't know if you've seen this. I did a post on LinkedIn about this morning. We've just finally completed, my security team and I, our new cyber quiz. It's like a cyber health check that you can do, 25 questions. It takes 2 minutes and it kicks out your cybersecurity score. And we like to think it's really going to help thousands of people just to instantly see what their risks are and the areas that they need to improve on, plus recommendations. And it's free.
Sure. Well, I've just shared that into the comments for people to go and see. So hopefully they can go and see that on all the platforms. You'll be able to go and see that shared. And I've just put it onto LinkedIn as well. So if people can go on there, go and complete that quiz. How long did you say? 2 minutes, Francis?
2 minutes. 2 minutes. Some people do it in less, but it's asking. We cover 5 different areas.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff we've spoken about today. But if you complete it, you'll get an instant stuff that you maybe never even thought about. But you're either going to know the answer. Just answer it honestly, and you'll get great value from it.
Excellent stuff. Well, Francis, is there, at the end of the quiz, is there a way for people to then get hold of you, or would it be best to get hold of you on the stuff you have in your background there? Or
either or, they can they can connect to me on LinkedIn. Just send a message when you connect. Say, I saw you talking on with Mac Laubster, which is always handy. Otherwise, I might not say yes to your connection request. 2, if they want to go on our website, which is security-everywhere.com. You'll contact me on my details on the background there. I'll be delighted to speak to people that want to take this seriously.
Excellent stuff. Well, Francis, as always, I want to thank you for taking the time and investing into helping people and giving so much of your time at literally no cost. I mean, the amount of talks you've done in the last two years, I'm sure you've lost count.
164. I did count.
Oh, wow.
So today's one is 165, if you want to add it.
Wow. So you're definitely putting in the mileage to get to those million business users that you've educated. So, best of luck on your mission. And, I look forward to supporting you on this. But I hope that everybody, if you've taken action today, you've listened to this, all I ask is go into the comments and just say, yes, I have taken action. Whatever action that is, whatever step, Francis spoke about that you feel that you have let slip through the net as such. Once you've taken action, don't let us know what action you've taken. Just put in there that I have taken action. And then, firstly, Francis will know that he's closer and stronger on that mission towards their 1 million. And I know that these interviews have then landed, and even if it makes a difference to one person,
exactly,
and saves their business from ruin, which ultimately will impact them and their families and their loved ones, then we've done our job here. So, Francis, massive thank you. Any final words before we wrap up?
All the learning that you get here today, share it with other people. That's all I'm asking.
Absolutely. And, Jonathan's just commented there saying I'm going to be more careful about opening links from strangers. One of the things that I must give LinkedIn kudos for is recently they put something in place that when you click on a link in your messages and your DMs on LinkedIn, it will say, this is taking you off of LinkedIn. Do you want to do this? Now, for me, that's a great little flag that'll just go, why am I clicking on this? Who am I clicking? Who's the person that I'm sending, sent this? So just to give you a little split second to give you a sense check, because otherwise it's just click and done.
I would go back, Mac, and I would say, do not click on a link.
Yeah, I'm just thankful that LinkedIn at least stopped that.
No, I agree. No, I saw that as well, which is good. But don't take the risk unless you're running like you are, our computer security. Because then you can click on what you like, as far as I'm concerned, because we'll catch you when you fall every time. But if you don't have that level of security in place, please don't click on a link.
So what you're saying is, as long as I'm using your software, I can click on anything?
That is exactly what I'm saying. I'm dead serious.
Well, ironically, I've been very cautious of clicking on just any link. But I also have but that's probably why I've had almost no alerts in the last 12 months from using
there's been a few, but I just haven't phoned you about it. But because there's been one or two go, I see Mac has clicked on something again. He probably doesn't know, because we like, you've got the duck on the pond, and we underneath like this fixing it all, whilst you just having a nice swim in 39 degrees. That's what we do, because we've got a team of 250 people now in our security operations center that looks after all our clients, 24/7. So you can click on what you like, and we'll catch you when you fall.
Okay, well, hey, if you want that peace of mind that I keep forgetting about, because even though I'm cautious, Francis clearly hasn't, and now I'm a bit worried and suspicious about what I have clicked on that alerted Francis. But anyway, reach out to Francis, check them out. They've got some incredible solutions, and I promise you, it doesn't cost an arm and a leg, but it surely does if you wait until after. Try and put those things in place today. So Francis, again, thank you very much. Another Life Hacks with Mac done. Go and be safe out there, people. I know it's 39 degrees out in the shade. Be careful, and go and listen to the suntan or the sunscreen song, and it'll give you all the instructions you need to have. Other than that, a big thank you. Have an incredible day, everybody. Francis, go and get some fresh air and cool down, my friend.
No, I'm pretty cool. Thank you very much.
Really all the best, everybody. Cheers out.